welcome back to Mega Music Memories, the podcast that remembers and celebrates the unsung heroes of pop and dance from yesteryear who've earned permanent places in our hearts with their epic music. My name is Matt Gibson. Join me as I interview artists from the 90s and noughties who, in my view, don't always get the plaudits they deserve for the amazing music they made and the magical memories they've given to us fans. If you're a nostalgia nerd, subscribe and stay tuned as we continue our journey looking back at an awesome era. If you love pop, if you love nostalgia, and enjoy hearing your favourite old school artists reflecting on their careers and giving us the lowdown on what they're doing now, you're in the right place. So buckle up, because we've got some serious reminiscing to do. Hello and thank you once again for tuning in to Mega Music Memories. Our guest on this episode is American singer Kym Sims, who won the hearts of UK music fans in 1991 when her track Too Blind to See It climbed to number 5 in the singles chart, spending 7 weeks in the top 10. 2 more singles were released from Kym's album, also called Too Blind to See It, with Take My Advice and A Little Bit More climbing to number 13 and 30 in the chart, respectively, in 1992. Kym talks to us in the interview about her early years recording jingles for TV ads, the stunning success of Too Blind to See It, working with house music legend Steve "Silk" Hurley, her songwriting credits including Keep On Walkin by CeCe Penistone, and her more recent music working with writer Thomas Arambula and house music producer Scott Featherstone. Now, while many people will know Kym for dance and house music, it's less well known that Kym's first professional experience as a singer was working as a backing vocalist for Berry Gordy's legendary Motown record label. So, I started the interview by asking Kym how she got involved with that.
My uncle worked for Berry Gordy Jr. and senior, if you will. And so he did everything he possibly could so that they would be able to hear me sing. So they let me do some background vocals on some things. But my biggest breakthrough was doing when I started doing jingles. I started singing jingles like maybe a year or 2 after that in 80, 81.
Yeah, so Berry Gordy there was obviously the founder of
yes,
Motown.
Yes. And Pops Gordy, his father, Pops Gordy was just he was just a lovely man, and he kind of took me under his wings, and he made his junior Barry listen to me sing. So I literally sang in front of Marvin Gaye and had dinner with him and it was like, and I was a young girl, but just to be in the presence of somebody like Marvin Gaye, it was like, oh my God, So yeah, that was like my first taste of like, stardom, but I was the fan, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I mean, that was one of my questions, because I think you were just out of high school, weren't you? And
yep.
So I was going to ask, what kind of artists were you working with, and what was it like being such a young girl working with these massive artists? So it doesn't really come much bigger than Marvin Gaye, does it?
Oh my God. And what's so crazy is, as fans of people, we see them so differently than they really are, So here, he was married to Berry Gordy's sister, Anna Gordy Gay, and she was she was kind of a mean lady, but I think she and Marvin were having their issues. But I can just remember sitting at a table and they were arguing. They were like you and me, just normal people.
Yeah.
And arguing and all that, but he was just so cool in his demeanor and just the way he floated through a room, that was a memory that I'll never, ever, ever forget.
So as you mentioned there, Kym, you obviously, you moved on to recording jingles for adverts. What was that like? And were you involved with any kind of well-known campaigns or big brands?
Well, you know what? First of all, it was awesome. I had no clue what a jingle was when I was introduced to them, if you will. I was in a pageant back in 1980, the Miss Black Chicago pageant, and there were there were beautiful girls in the pageant. I was more on a fair skin, and I always thought, no, I'm not going to be able to. They're not going to pick me to do it because, I'm not the quote unquote average looking Black girl, but my mother forced, she kept forcing the issue and saying, no, we're going to put you in this pageant because we know you can sing and yada, yada. So I ended up joining the pageant, and it was probably the best thing that could have ever happened for me because the gentleman that did the music, that was producer of the music and the orchestration of all the music, his name is Paul David Wilson. And Paul David Wilson owned a jingle house called Hurley Commercial. And so when he would work with all of the singers on the production for the pageant, he always said to me, you have a really special voice, you have a special tone and a special sound. I would love to work with you after this pageant is over. And I said, okay, I'm like, 19, 20. I'm like, okay. So anyway, he, after the pageant, I came in first runner-up, but the young lady that won, she went on to become Miss Black America, and you can't hold two titles. So I just automatically became Miss Black Chicago. So I did a whole year of doing all of those things. But in the meantime, Paul Wilson was grooming me and showing me all of the ins and outs of being a jingle singer. So I've done McDonald's campaigns. I did a big soda pop or pop or whatever you all call it over there, bubbles or whatever. And it was for Shasta, and Shasta was like, it's still made, but they don't have commercials out. But that was my first major spot, and that was a solo spot. And that's when I got the real idea of what jingles was, because I was making some nice money. So I was like, yeah. So that was a big spot. It was a national spot, and was my first solo spot. But in the meantime, I did solo spots with McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Juicy Fruit Gum, Double Mint Gum, Shasta, of course. I'm trying to think, Burger King, Pillsbury Poppin' Fresh Dough. If you go on YouTube, it's so funny, and you type in some of the names of the songs that were the commercials, you'll see the, I was never on screen. I just was the voice of the person on screen. So yeah, but I go out there. Sometimes I'll put it out every year at some point in the year and just say, wow, it's been over almost 40 years since I did this jingle. It just doesn't seem, I mean, I'm only 25 now, so I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah, I've been watching some of those Shasta commercials on YouTube.
Yes.
And they're quite infectious, aren't they?
They are. And I said, it would be nice if they would bring it back. I mean, they bring back so many songs, they bring back so many things, and, they use so many artists, in different commercials, some of the songs and stuff. I said it would be so great if Two Blind could be part of a commercial, or, but Keep On Walkin', which is a song I wrote for myself for my album, and CeCe Penistone ended up getting it for her album, but they've used it in a few commercials. So I get a few dollars from that every now and then.
That's always good. Always good.
Yeah.
So can you talk us through then, Kym, how you got from recording jingles to having your massive breakout smash hits to Blind to See It in 1991?
Yes, of course. So I was, sorry, my dog is in the background barking. I apologize. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and I had friends that, were in the music, DJs, and one of the DJs that was that I knew from childhood. His wife and I became really good friends, and that DJ's name was Steve Silk Hurley. And so Hurley and I really never worked together because he was on a whole different circuit. You know, I was doing jingles, he was doing that, but you know, I would go to parties, and you know, so I knew of Frankie Knuckles, and I knew of David Morales, and I knew of Steve Silk Hurley and the Hot Mix Crew and all of those folks. But I was on a different, you know, just on a different path. His wife and I became really best friends, and she had a friend that was leaving town to go, you know, start her new life in another city. So they decided to give her a little party, and they asked me if I would sing. And so everyone knew I could sing, and they knew about all the commercials that I'd done. So they knew that, you know, I was a singer, but I was never really thinking that it was going to lead to anything. You know, I just would sing to sing. So anyway, when I got done, I sang Inseparable by Natalie Cole. And when I got done, Steve came over, and I can't remember the exact thing, but I just can remember him coming to me and he and I talking, and him saying, hey, you know, I have my own record label, and I'm partnered with, you know, people, and I'd love for you to come in and maybe do some songs, you know, or, you know, demo up some songs, see what we can come up with. Would you be interested? I said, of course, you know, yeah. So ended up doing that, and Too Blind to See It, Keep On Walking, Take My Advice. There were like 3 or 4 songs that I did, and Too Blind to See It at the time, I think Steve might have had something out. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, they were shopping me around, or shopping the song around, and the way I understand it now, I didn't know it then, but the way I understand it now is nobody wanted to pick the song up, but you guys over in the UK, the smart people in the world, it was bubbling under over there, and the label it was on was ID. And so I guess the labels here got smart enough to say, okay, well, look, this song looks like it's going to be doing something. Maybe we ought to go ahead. And so I ended up signing with Atlantic East West Records. And I guess I should say Atco East West, a subsidiary of Atlantic. But yeah, I got a album deal with them. And so Too Blind to See It, of course, was the name of the album, as well as the name of the single that puts me in conversation with you right now. And it was, you know, when I think back on it now, Matt, what's so funny is when I was in the throes of it, you know, I was just doing what I do, which is sing. You know, I never really got the chances to really see it for what it was, if that makes sense. I enjoyed the going out and people, you know, singing to my song. It just used to blow my mind that they paid me money to do this. You know what I mean? I was like, what? And now when I look back on it, it's 30 years old this year. The album itself is 30 years old, actually this month. And the single Too Blind was 30 years old in August. And I am just now really realizing and recognizing how big that song was.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It really was. Released here in the UK in December 91. It peaked at number 5 in the charts, spent 7 weeks in the top 10. You were asked to record a demo of the track more than a year before you were called back into the studio to record the version that was commercially released.
Yes.
So do you know why there was such a long gap there?
You know, it could have very well been me. You know, I might have still been doing the whole jingle thing. I can't quite remember. I will say that I was going through a divorce, and so it was kind of tumultuous for me back then. So that could have had something to do with it. But I just remember recording the song, and I can tell you that what they put out was really a song that had maybe been recorded maybe 1 or 2 times. It was a demo. It wasn't I guess they went in and did whatever. They sped it up and had me sound like Mickey Mouse, but that's another story, chipmunks. But anyway, the soul version was a version that was my favorite, you know, because it leaned on what my voice really sounded like, you know. But I think the timing might have just been them trying to possibly, get record deals or get labels to pay attention to it. You know what I mean? So that might have had something to do with it, but I can't say for sure.
Yeah. You've already mentioned Steve Silk Hurley. Can you talk a little bit about who he is and why he was so influential?
I can't speak on who he is now because Steve and I are not in a place, in the same place that we were when we first, we both have gone, in different directions and all that. But I know that he's had a wonderful career, and I'm God bless him. I know that he was passionate and about what he did when it came to production and to music. He was very, very particular and wanted, the sound to be just the Hurley sound, if you know what I mean. And he definitely made his mark. I really didn't know him as that person. I just knew him as Steve, and going in the studio and singing, it was really probably more serious for him than it was for me, because singing for me, it just was so natural. I wasn't really thinking about the production side of it and what had to be done, to make it all come to fruition. And coming off of jingles, you had to pronounce every word, articulate, be very specific in the way he did it. So it was a change for me, where he sort of tried to pull me through to give me more of a commercial sound and try to get that house music sound. So I could definitely say that. And I had perfect pitch. So he was very, he was happy about that, but he also was very, very particular about making, he would do, if you got to do a take, another take, he was, he was good for that. And he knew what he was doing. And I give him half of the credit of for the song. I mean, I was the singer, he was the producer and the writer, and together we had a wonderful collaboration. And I'm grateful that we came together in that time. We did speak some years ago, and he was gonna start, I guess it was for the 25-year anniversary and then the 30-year anniversary. And I know he wanted to have me re-record it, and he possibly put it out on like a greatest hits album. But to be honest with you, Matt, and I don't bite my tongue when it comes to stuff, especially now at my age. I'm like, I can say what the hell I want to. Some things you got to leave alone. You know what I'm saying? And I thought about it, and I went through it in my mind, and I thought about it for a few years, and I ended up recording some new vocals, but we never came to an agreement from the standpoint of contractual or how it was going to work. I did them, and life happened, I think, for him. So it was like 3 or 4 years before he got back to me. And by that time, I had already said, what, those are my vocals that I own the master. I'm gonna refuse having them put out. I'm just not gonna do it. And so we talked about it, and I told him, I said, I think I would pass, and we're just gonna let the too blind to see it that I'm known for be that. And if he has whoever and all the different people that may be out there that sing it, it's a beautiful thing. But I want my history to be just what it is, and to have it remain the same, if that makes any sense to you, know? And so, that's one of the reasons too. I think that we don't have the relationship that we did. I have nothing against him, and I don't believe he has anything against me. And I'm sure he doesn't when he gets those checks in the mail. I don't get him, but that's another story. But anyway, but no, it turned out that it was probably for the best, and I think I made the right decision.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, Kym, you're originally from Chicago.
Yes.
And anyone who knows their house music knows that Chicago it's the birthplace of house, and
so they say. That's right.
yeah, paved the way.
Yeah.
And you coming from there, Kym, and being friends with and knowing the people
Yes.
you knew back in the early to mid 80s.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that you were around and kind of witnessing music history, really, as it was
I guess
happening?
I was. Yeah. And I had no clue. You know what I mean? Like I said, they knew. They were in the lab and they were the chemist. And, I was just the liquid they were going to pour into this. And you know what I mean? That's kind of how I look at it. And I had no clue, Matt, that Too Blind to See. I didn't even like the song. I mean, I always considered myself a singer, like ballads and, well, of course I got pushed into the the secular pop side, if that's what that is. And so, I mean, it worked to my advantage. But I also feel like I got a little pigeonholed, and you got your heavy hitters, house divas out there like Martha Wash and then Barbara Tucker and Sharon Pass and CeCe, and here I am. I'm more of a poppy sort of, jingle singer little girl. And so I was kind of, I didn't find house music. House music found me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everyone involved, like Jamie Principal, I mean, all the names that I used to just say, hey, Jamie, hey, Steve, hey, Maurice. Now they're Maurice Joshua, Grammy Award winning Maurice Joshua. And, it's like you just never really know. And in 30 years, we've all gone our separate ways. But, to look back on things, I could say we were all just so young and so full of hope and just wanting things to go our way, and to be able to say I'm a part of history, a song that is, it goes down in history. I believe I was, if I'm not mistaken, my friend Thomas, he's my, he writes my new songs, my new music, but I think I was the first house artist to cross over to the pop side, if I'm not mistaken, so that was kind of a nice thing to see and hear too.
You lent your vocals to a track called Deep in the City, didn't you?
Yes.
Paid homage to those beginnings.
Right. That's right.
That's you mentioned your friend Thomas. That's Thomas Arambula, isn't it?
Yes, Thomas Arambula. That's right.
Arambula. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. Arambula. That's okay. Yeah, Thomas is actually the reason why I started singing again, because it wasn't like I'd stopped singing. I just wasn't singing where anybody knew, I wasn't out there. I was doing clubs, but nothing major, you know what I mean? And he wanted very badly for me. He said, Kym, you still have something to offer. You've got a beautiful voice. You got to get out there. You got to. And what I was doing, Matt, I was going and searching the wrong, what's the word I usually use? I was barking up the wrong tree. I wasn't looking at the UK. I was looking at home. I was trying to get things, but in essence, it was the LGBTQIA community and the European sector that was, still embracing Kym Sims. So when I realized that, I said, okay, so I'm just barking up the wrong trees. Let me shift and try to shift some things and see. So Thomas asked me, he was a club kid back in the day, and he says, I wrote this song, and I just, Kym, if you please, you got to sing it. And I said, of course, and it was an homage to all of the heavy hitters. And, Frankie Knuckles, God rest his soul, and just had a birthday last week. And Deep in the City was a very passionate song for Thomas. He wanted it to, because that was like the part of his life. He grew up to dance and house music. So for me, it was an honor to do it. It was an honor to do it for the other people that I sang it about. And even though they didn't have anything to do with it, it felt good to be able to, pay homage to them, and Thomas did a great job. And we had some great remixers and producers on it. And so it I was proud of this song, and I still am.
Yeah, it's great. I've been listening. I've not been familiar with it until just doing my research for this, but yeah, I've been enjoying it the last few days.
Thank you. You know what it is, Matt, when you don't, when you don't have the machine behind you, it's a little bit harder. You know, people like, oh, I didn't even know you were still singing. I'm like, duh,
yeah.
you know, but you don't have that, the push. And I've just never been the kind of person, I'm not going to buy fans. I just figure if you're going to be a fan, you're going to be a fan. I'm not going to, do that. I want everything to be organic. I don't want to have to, and I'm at a stage in my life now where I'm not trying to get a gazillion followers. I'm not trying to become a TikTok sensation. Everything I do for fun. And I thank my husband and I thank God that I don't have to go out on the road. I choose to now. And it's something that I do, and I do for the love of it, which I always have. But at one point I had to pay bills with it. You know what I mean? And when everything started to go away, it weighs heavy on you because you're loved and you're adored, and people think, oh my God, but in your quiet moments, it's like, oh, nobody loves me anymore. You know what I mean? So for me now, being able to still to get out into aside from this whole COVID thing, I had some dates, but now I'm getting dates again. But I do it now, and it's more exciting, and I'm actually able to see and recognize what the song has meant to you and so many of your listeners and so many other people. So it's been good for me and my spirit.
Yeah. Now the spoken word bit, the beginning of Too Blind. Honey, let me tell you something. No man in the world.
Yeah, First Choice. That was a sample from First Choice.
Yes.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it was, Steve was good for doing stuff like that. And that, you could sort of yank stuff and slip stuff in and sort of get away with it until James Brown and Ray Charles and a lot of the old folks started saying, hey, you're going to grab a sample, you won't have to pay for that.
Yeah.
So he put that in there, and once again, I was singing, so all of the business stuff that was going on around me, I wasn't as focused on. I was just more focused on getting on the road and singing. Well, it turns out that they sued us for that sample, but it actually, I think that's what gets everybody's attention. I mean, of course, the keys, when you first start hearing, when the song first starts, but when you get that No Man in the World, that's the one that just sort of like, so I guess I paid for the sample, but I don't know. But yeah, we snatched it, and then they snatched some money, but it all worked out because we still use it. So
yeah. Yeah, well, maybe it's worked out best for everyone then involved.
Yeah, I think it did. I'll tell you what, if I had it to do over again, and I want to say this, and I don't say this from the bitter standpoint. I say it from a more mature, seasoned woman standpoint. If I had it to do over again, I would have been a businesswoman who was a singer. I was a singer. Yeah. And was not a businesswoman. And so when I sing Too Blind to See It, or when it's played on the radio, when I sing it live, I'm getting paid to sing it live. But when it's on the radio or every compilation that's been on or wherever, however, and whatever, I don't get one dime for. So my choices of not making the right choices caused things to be, the way they are. I can't blame anybody for doing what they, for doing their due diligence, if you know what I mean. But when you're young and you don't know it and you're just in it for me, especially with what I was going through, it was just, oh my God, I'm going to have a record out. It's on the radio. You know what I mean? So now, not looking to 30 years later, where 30 years later, it has helped to supply financial gain to everyone but me. And if anything, for any new artists, it's so different. The industry is so different now anyway. But you can, you know, YouTube, and I mean, all of that. But I would just say, whatever you do as far as a performer, if, you know, if your passion is to be a singer, you know, be the best one you can, but be, you know, put the business before the, don't put the cart before the horse, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, good advice,
Yeah.
I think. As you mentioned, Kym, I mean, you did achieve success in the States.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, Too Blind, you know, got to 38 on the Billboard top 100.
Yeah, that was a crossover, so that was big. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as you say, your career in the 90s really caught fire here in the UK and elsewhere in Europe as well, particularly in Scandinavia.
Yes.
Now, why do you think things worked out so well for you over in this part of the world?
You know, that's interesting, and I'm glad you asked that question, because this is going to be great. Okay, so check this out. So I found out 8 years ago that I was adopted. I didn't know. I had no idea. So the parents that raised me were from the States, and, you know, and my mom and dad, rest their soul. My biological mother is French. Right. And my biological father is African American. All of the success I've had over, you know, in the UK, Scandinavia. I mean, and my mother, the one that raised me, she used to say to me, "You're going to have a lot of success over in Europe, overseas." And I never understood what she meant by that, but I really and truly believe, and this could sound crazy to some people, but when you find out at such a late age that you know, you're not who you thought you were, and you are a part of the people that literally have put me on the map, it almost makes me feel like that's where I was supposed to have the success, because in essence, that's where I'm from. Do you get me? Yeah. So I kind of liken it to being, you know, the child of all you guys over there. I'm your kid, you know what I mean? And so the kid came home to, you know, and that's where the love was shown to me from people that, you know, that are my ancestors. And I think that's kind of how I look at it. I really believe that the other side of it is that you all know music. You don't give up on artists. You know what I mean? And I speak you, meaning, you know, overseas, Europe, you know, everybody. It's like you respect the craft, you respect the art, you respect the producer, you respect everything that's put into that pot of gumbo that makes it taste so good. And I think here, even though I had a good career here in the US, especially with the LGBTQIA community, and they still show me love, but I think here, you know, it's always an on to the next sort of thing, you know, on to the next. Whereas overseas, you know, old school, the real music, you know, you guys get it. And you know, it's never gone away. And I think that's what keeps me coming, because I find it so interesting. I said, you know, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, well, damn, if I still got fans over there, I said, most of my fans are probably dying right about now. Oh my gosh. And I'm thinking, well, damn, I mean, some of them probably are walkers. And then I think about the kids. I said, I'm probably singing to their great grandchildren, you know what I mean? You know, because everybody, we all want to get a new fan base. But when I think about it now, you know, I would love for the young folks to be like, oh, Too Blind to See It. And I know some people have done some covers and done some beautiful jobs, you know, as far as the song goes. But it's the ones that are in my age group and the people that were fanning out back then that are still, you know, showing me love. Those are the real partiers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You've definitely got younger fans as well. And, you know, there were people like my age, I'm 35, who were young, growing up, listening to your music. We're now coming to an age where we've maybe got a bit of disposable income for the first time, and we're reminiscing about years gone by, and so we're going to these like 90s festivals and stuff like that. So I mean, have you kind of noticed nostalgia for 90s music growing in recent years at all?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and that's what's been so crazy. As I said, early on when Thomas says, "Please, Kym, you got to sing some songs." Yeah. The surge, the 90s surge was coming back, if you will. In essence, it's really never gone away, but you find that it's really, people are starting to just, the younger crowd, and of course, all the people from way back when, but it's like, it's got a staying power. You know what I mean? It's gonna be there. People are gonna listen to it forever, I think. You know what I mean? And that's what's been so good for me, because it's given me the opportunity to get back out on the road. And when people see that I'm still doing my thing, and I've tried to keep myself together and get out on the stage, it's the feeling is so euphoric. It's so hard to describe, but I would do it for free, but I'm more seasoned now, and I'm vintage, and anything vintage cost. So when I actually retired on my birthday, December 28th. I retire every year on my birthday, but this time I truly did retire. Okay. But what I have done is I said, I will come out of retirement if it serves me. Okay. And if it's something that, and let me say this too, I have some gigs that were already, in place. So of course I will live up to my obligations. And that's something that I've always prided myself on. But if I do come out, I will put on my stilettos and get out there on that stage and perform. And then I'll take them off and put my retired slippers on until the next gig.
And was one of those previous commitments the party in the park?
Yes.
That was supposed to be September 2021, wasn't it? But it got
but now it appears as though because they postponed it. They didn't cancel it.
No, sorry. Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah. So it appears as though it's gonna happen. I mean, I'm still being told that it's gonna go on, and no matter how people look at COVID and the Omicron or whatever they call it, COVID-19 and all of that, whatever your belief or your once whatever is going on seems to be dying down, I think things will start to open up, and hopefully I'll get back to do the things that I'm committed to do. So
we'll be seeing you in the UK this year, hopefully. Crossed.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm going to record as well, because I as I said, I committed to it. And I work with Scott Featherstone, Steve Teasdale, Des Ford, and of course Thomas Arambula, who writes beautiful songs. And so I have I'm planning on releasing another song that I did called Love's Got a Hold on Me. And we didn't release it. We just sort of kind of played with it and put it out just so people could and people seem to like it. So we're going to release it for sure on Scott Featherstone's label. And then I've got something going on with a gentleman by the name of Tim Howman, who is just a sweetheart. And he's a DJ, and he sent me this phenomenal track. When I tell you, man, it was just beyond, it's bad. It's just bad. And so Thomas wrote this song called Love's Taking Over. And so we're gonna put that on that track. So I'm still gonna do my recording. It's just, I'm doing it my way, and what will be. And I'm doing it for me, from the standpoint of giving myself, that peace of mind, but I'm doing it more so for my fans and you guys and the DJs and the people that have really embraced me and gave me the opportunities that I have right now. So,
yeah. And just going back to those days in the 90s again, was there ever a moment, Kym, when you realized, like, wow, I've really hit the big time here?
Well, it was over there, over in London. Yeah. I was actually, I was flown in to do Top of the Pops. And I have to say it, I was afraid to fly, and I didn't know, you don't know what's going on the other side of the world, especially back then. It's not like it is now. So people, I was seeing the chart grow, and people were telling me different things, but you don't know it. You're not feeling it. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was like, whatever, I don't want to get on a plane. But anyway, so I get over there, and they had been playing the song on Top of the Pops, and I was walking, and I'm synonymous for having a hat, but people don't really know. It's not so much style. It's because I don't want to do anything to my hair, so I just put a hat on. But anyway, so I was both my Two Blind video was out and Take My Advice, so both songs were out. And I was walking down, I want to say High Street, and I might have been going to the Underground or I stayed at the Gore Hotel, wherever that was at the time. But I was walking, and I was by myself, and these two young ladies were walking toward me, and they were arm in arm, but they were just, like chirping and talking and looking at me and chirping and talking. And so I'm like, hey, how y'all doing? Not thinking, I'm just like, oh, okay, this must be, how they are over here, And I walk by, and the girl goes, "It's her. I know it's her." And I'm thinking, oh. So one of them comes back. She goes, "Excuse me, no disrespect, but this is my British accent. Excuse me, are you Kym Sims?" And I was like, yeah. And Matt, it was so crazy because I didn't know why she was asking me that. I'm like, well, how would you know? But in essence, I had arrived, I guess, you know what I mean? And I didn't know that. So then, they asked for autograph and a picture. I was like, of course, And so then I go in Top Shop and walk in the door, and there's the video. It was like, it's playing through my mind like a movie now, but it really reminded me of a movie. And I walk in Top Shop, and there's Too Blind to See It playing on their screens in Top Shop. And so I'm like, oh, that's me. And I'm looking around, and I'm pointing to people, like, that's me, and they're like, we know. It was crazy. That's when I really, really, that was the aha moment for me from that side of how large it really was. But the aha moment for me here in the US was when I was living in Chicago. The song was out. My kids and I were in the car. We were heading to a radio interview that I was doing for a big power station. And I'm driving in my little putt, my little, hoopty, because money hadn't started to arrive yet, if you know what I mean. And so I'm just driving, and all of a sudden you hear the keys, dim, 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 and I'm like, is it? And my kids are in the back screaming, "Mommy, that's you!" I had to pull over, and I cried. I'm like, I'm on the radio. It was different than the jingles. When I hear myself singing the jingles, it was like you see somebody else, and it was my voice, and I always thought nobody cared, But to be able to have it be me, and then people knew it, and it's on the radio, and I'm actually driving with my children, and there it is. Oh my God, that was another aha moment.
Yeah, incredible. What a moment.
Yeah, super great, super great.
Now, you briefly mentioned there, Take My Advice. That was your follow-up single to Too Blind to See It. It was a huge club hit over here in 92. Peaked at number 13 in the charts. What are your memories of that track?
Well, Take My Advice, I co-wrote, and it was really, in my mind, it was a lot about what was going on in my life, and some of the, the struggles that people in relationships have, coming from Too Blind to See It, kind of like being mistreated, and I should have known better, and why did I stay? And then you get to Take My Advice, and you realize there are good guys in the world. There are good girls in the world. So Take My Advice was sort of like my happy place, because I had gotten to a point where I was in a good place. So, and meeting someone and making sure that I that I knew that good men didn't come a dime a dozen, you know? So it was kind of like telling the ladies, okay, let's not be too bitter here. Let's, you know, let's not be too blind, but let's also take our advice and know that not everybody is like, you know, the guy in Two Blind to See. Yeah. So that was kind of like the inspiration. Yeah.
That's nice. So the third and final single taken from your album, or also called Too Blind to See It, was a song called A Little Bit More.
Oh, yeah.
That reached number 30 in the UK singles charts. And you shot the video for that single on an island just off the coast of California, didn't you?
Yes.
It looks very luxurious. What are your memories of that video shoot?
That was so much fun. I mean, the prelude, or I should say the lead up to it, was really, really crazy. During that time, I flew to California during the Rodney King riots.
Yeah. And
it was a really, really horrible time for that city because they were burning LA down. You know what I mean? It was, so when I went in, those were all concerns of everybody. And so we all, you know, I can remember just the whole way of routing and mapping things out as to where and how we were going to do things. And so I just remember, we took a helicopter to Catalina Island, and that was the little island off of the outside of LA. And it just like a little island, but it reminded you of someplace over in paradise, you know what I mean? And so I remember they telling me that I had to get in a helicopter, and I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm not getting up in no helicopter. You know, I was like freaking out. So, you know, getting up, you know, I don't know if you've ridden in a helicopter, but, you know, it's not like going this way. It's, you know, it goes up and it tilts. So it was like really a scary feeling of tilting. But the route that they took me right over where the tankers were, where the fires were. So I literally got a panoramic, is that what I would call it, or what are those things called now that fly around, that
like a drone.
Boom. So it was like a helicopter drone, and like I was literally seeing all of that happen. And so it was a really sad sort of time. But once we got over to Catalina Island and everybody, you know, kind of got their game face on, and I had, you know, a beautiful dancer and some lovely stylists and people, you know, everybody got their heads together, and, you know, it turned out to be such a beautiful time. I enjoyed that, shooting that video, because it did feel like I was somewhere else, you know what I mean? Somewhere tropical. But yeah, that was my biggest memory, was the fact that it was during that whole time of the King riots. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we obviously know you, Kym, for upbeat, high tempo music, but you got to record a ballad on your album as well, didn't you? Called In My Eyes. Now, you've already said you're a big ballads person, and house music kind of found you as opposed to you going to it. So did you enjoy kind of being able to showcase a different side to your voice?
Oh my God. Yes, because, you know, man, I always felt like people didn't really know that I can sing. If you know what I mean. I'm a singer. I can sing. And, you know, I wasn't created in a studio. I walked in a studio with a voice, and they manipulated it to do whatever, you know, and it worked out. However, I wanted to, you know, I didn't want to be in that one, be pigeonholed, if you know what I mean. So it felt really good to have beautiful songs, ballads. And the thing is, that whole CD, that album, it was a great album. I mean, Shantae Savage, Donnell Rush, some of the writers, Jerry McAllister, just backgrounds, Sharon Pass. I mean, so many just ultra talented people, you know, and that added their touch to it. It was a beautiful album. But to be able to do ballads, oh my God, that was like that. And I think if you listen to the album in its entirety, or if you jump around and listen, you can hear more of the passion in the ballads, as opposed to, you know, like I Love a little bit more, that, you know, that was just, but it was sort of up tempo, but yet it's, you know, it still had that so a sultry enough sound where you could sort of hear, okay, she's got a pretty good tone there, you know what I mean? But to do In My Eyes and Should Have Known Better and Never Should Have Let You Go, oh my God, those songs, oh, I love, yeah. Matter of fact, when I go out live, I don't know if you ever watch me on, I do silly stuff because I just get bored. But yesterday I put a video out of a song that Fantasia did, and it's called I Believe. And, you know, when I get responses from people like, oh my God, Kym, you have such a beautiful voice, that means so much to me, because it's kind of like what's the word I'm looking? Yeah, securing what I always wanted people to know, which is that I could sing, you know, and that I, you know, the tricks in the studio is not necessarily what I needed, but it's what, you know, got me to where, you know, where I am now. So.
Now, you've already mentioned this briefly, Kym. Keep On Walking, you wrote it, ended up as a track by CeCe Penistone. Was that supposed to be on your album originally then? Yeah,
well, now that's what I thought. And, you know, once again, I've been finding things out later here in life that, you know, I didn't necessarily know, but at that time I had recorded those songs and was told, especially after we had gotten the album deal, that, you know, we're going to do these are going to be songs for your album. I mean, you had Too Blind to See It, Take My Advice, a little bit more. Why did Keep On Walking it keep on walking? You know what I mean? Where was it walking to? You get where I'm coming from. So it was like every song I did, and CeCe did a phenomenal job. I mean, the song was for her. It had to have been, because she got it. But I was under the impression that it was written by me, with me in mind, and the whole situation in my life. And when talking with Steve and his partner, who is now deceased, it was told to me that that's what was going to be. But I didn't know, I didn't find it out until I actually heard it on the radio that she was going to be, that she, you know, they had shopped it to her, and that she got it. And, you know, at the time I was pretty salty, because, you know, nobody will ever hear my version of it. And I know it in my head. It was one that I really felt it would have been a great follow-up. But the other side of it is, it may not have been a hit for me. It was a hit for her. You know what I mean? And the choice that they made was probably the right choice, you know, but at that time I didn't think it was, you know what I mean? So, I found out just not long ago, Eric Miller, E Smooth, he was on a show, Lenny Fontana was interviewing him, and he made mention that I was one of the people that they had in the studio that was, you know, would do their demos, but they weren't necessarily, you know, locked into me being the singer on all the songs. That was never something that was, you know, was discussed with me. But that's the other side of it. You gotta, you know, you can't point your finger and blame people for doing what they do business wise if you're all off on the other side, you know, just kind of like la la, you know. Yeah. So to really answer the question and to be diplomatic about it. It bothered me then. It doesn't anymore. The only thing that bothers me is the percentage that was given to me was not fair. And so once again, you know, there's a song out there that's been saying, I get a piece of change, and I'll literally say change. Yeah. And everyone knew then, and everyone knows now, if you and I were sitting in a room and two other people were in there writing a song, and you put a A or a B in there, you're 33 and a third. You know what I mean? It's just, that's the way it will go. But I didn't know that. And so, you know, I was thrown some pennies on a song that I co-wrote, you know. Yeah. But when I tell you, it was in the cards because she sang the hell out that song. So I am grateful for the pennies that, you know, I always tell people, she stomps the stage all over the world, and I just go to the mailbox and pick up the coins. That's pretty much it. So no bitterness, but at the time it you know, it hurt.
Yeah, I understand. And when it comes to writing, I mean, how does writing kind of differ to singing and performing? And is there one that you prefer over the other?
You know, I like writing, but I know I have a limited way of thinking when it comes to writing. Do you know what I mean? And at one point in my life, it was always a bashing song. I was going to bash somebody because they did me wrong. You know, that was where I was. And so when I write now, I write with the thought process of it being a ballad. It just happens that way. You know what I mean? That's why it's, for me, it's easier to sing. It's, you know, I feel like I'm a better singer than I am a songwriter. I feel like I've done okay with the songwriting, and, you know, you always feel it's like giving birth. You know, you may see my baby and think that's the ugliest baby in the world, but you better not tell me that, because that's my baby. You know what I mean? So the songs, every song I've ever written, I thought was a hit. You know what I mean? But Thomas has a way of writing. He understands what the sound is supposed to be, but he has a lyrical, he writes lyrics. You know, I tend to be repetitious when it comes to certain ways of writing. You know, I'm going to stick to one particular area, where Thomas writes a song. He'll give you two verses. He'll give you a hook. He gives you a song. And I think to write like I was pushed into with the house, where it's always been a very short lyric sort of song, you know, and then they do all the other stuff in the studio. Scott Featherstone, Des Ford, all of them are, you know, they have really helped me branch out, because Turn It Up was another song that Thomas wrote for me, and lyrically it helped me to get out there more from the lyric side. And then with me writing Dance Floor and One of Those Nights, my son helped me write that. And I started to learn how to put more lyrics into songs, you know, make it a story as opposed to a beginning and the end, you know, put something in the middle there. So when I think of what really excites me the most is being able to create something, but to literally sing it is really the big deal.
And you've mentioned already that LGBTQIA plus community has been with you through thick and thin.
Thick and thin, yep.
I mean, what does your relationship with those fans mean to you?
I tell you, when you're not out in the world, you don't know what's going on in the world. You know what I mean? And so the first gay club I did, and I say gay because at that time, that's what, you know, it's called a gay club. It was the Fridge over there in London, the Fridge. And I had no expectations. I just, you know, they told me it was a gay club. I'm like, okay, you know, and all I can say is, there were people in there that just showered me with love who were gay. That's how it was for me, if that makes any sense. It was like, I've never ever experienced that kind of love from the standpoint of, having to have a title. Oh, it's a gay club. I mean, to me, it was just going in to sing. But when I saw the way the gay partied and the love, it was just beyond fabulous. You know what I mean? So I make a joke all the time when I'm on stage at any gay club. I said, well, I have to tell you all, there were times where the girl didn't think she was going to eat. And I made a few phone calls to some friends and trying to get me into a couple of gay clubs so I could get a little food for me and the children. And they never, ever let me down. Do you know what I mean? They've been a mainstay for me. And they're people that I just adore from the people standpoint, and they're just fabulous. They're just fabulous fans. They show you what your music means to them, and that's pretty special.
Yeah. So, Kym, you say obviously you're retired now, but you may come out of retirement, and it serves your interest. So, can we expect anything in 2022 and beyond?
Well, of course, as I said early on, I'm vintage. I'm seasoned. She's a seasoned diva in her own mind. And so, anything that goes vintage goes up in price. And so, so I honestly, I would go out. I'm going to always go under the moniker of being retired, but I will always, you come to me with something that sparks my interest, I'm definitely going for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm definitely going to do some recording. Thomas, as I said, has written some more songs for me. So 2022, that's what it looks like for me. That's what the plan is. And anybody out there listening that wants to, hire me to perform. I've got some social media sites out there, and also Scott Featherstone, Steve Teasdale, they're sold out venue. I think it's called Sold Out Events. I think but they're under that, and they handle all of my business over there. I'm open. I'm open. I'm open to getting out there and, kind of seeing what's going on. I don't think the man that I told you about earlier, Paul David Wilson, he really was my mentor, and he really, really gave me a break. He's the one that I look to. I don't look to anyone else that for the break. He opened the door for me, and he always told me, he says, Kym, you got to stop saying you're retiring. You're not going to retire. You can still sing. You've got to keep that muscle working. If you don't use your muscle, you will lose your muscle. So I do. I that's why I go out and sing out, go out on Facebook and I just sing, and I call myself, vocalizing and everything. So as long as I'm able to still sing and breathe my breathing, and I'm not out there sounding like a broken record as opposed to a non-broken record, I'm going to keep doing it. And I don't ever want to say I don't want to sing, because I do want to sing. I just don't want to put myself in the position of that feeling of like, oh my God, they're not calling. I don't, yes. I don't want that mindset anymore. I just want to do it at my leisure, if that makes sense.
Let's call it semi-retired.
Semi, okay, and that's between you and me, okay? Semi. Don't tell everybody.
Okay. So where can people follow you on social media if they want to keep up with what you're doing?
Okay, so I go on TikTok, and it's at I'm Kym Sims bitch on TikTok, and that's my my little handle there. And then on Facebook, it's just KYMSIMS, Kym Sims, and then Kym Sims Fans. I have 2 pages. And then on Instagram, it's Kym, KYM _ Sims, SIMS _ fans _ official, Kym Sims Fans Official. And so that's, I'm not on Twitter. I just could never get with Twitter. I don't know why. I probably should. And then I think there are a few more, but as I said earlier on, I am so old school, man. I still use a pen and paper.
Hey, you're not that old school. I mean, if you're using TikTok, you're not old school.
Well,
I'm not
that's
using
true.
TikTok, so.
You're right, but that's true. My kids don't like it. My son is 30. He's actually 36. My daughter is 33. I have 8 grandchildren, and the oldest ones are 15. I have 2 boys. They're 15, and the youngest one is he was born on January 6th of this year, and so the ones in the middle are 2, 3, 7, and 11. And so, yeah. So when I see my 11-year-old grandson on TikTok, and then he'll come in and make a comment like, "Dima, you should take that down." It makes me think I am going crazy. But you know what? For me, TikTok is fun. If I get 1 view or no views, I just enjoy being able to edit, make my own little thing and edit it and do what it is I want to do. So that's kind of why I like TikTok. And of course, Facebook and all those places, people wouldn't know I still existed if I didn't have my name out there in some way. You know what I mean? And I know numbers are everything to everybody, but, I'm at an age now where I'm wanting the numbers to go backwards, not forwards, if you know what I mean. So I'm not worried too much about, being that. But I have to be honest with you. I really think that there's some videos I've done that should have gone viral. I just feel that way, but
well,
it is.
I'll have to check it out. I'll have to sign up for TikTok just so I can see your videos.
Just so you can, exactly. There you go. That's right. But yeah, I do it for fun and I enjoy it.
You do some kind of like giveaway kind of thing, don't you, on Facebook?
Yeah, well, yeah. You know what? I did. I do. I like to. Sometimes like I collect sunglasses, I collect hats, I collect shoes, I collect elephants, I collect designer bags. I mean, I just collect. But the hats have always been so synonymous with me. Yeah. Last year I did a little contest, and I ended up giving a little girl. She loves Kym Sims, Too Blind to See It, so I gave her one of my hats. And then when I'm on stage, just recently I started in the last few years, depending on the venue and how it works out. Because, when you throw things out into the crowd, it could get a little weird, you don't want to cause an issue. But a lot of times I'll have a hat on and maybe a hat over it or a hat under it, and I'm, take it off and hurl it out into the crowd. But I like giving things away. I did a sunglass giveaway. I had about 30 pairs of sunglasses, and I did a live, and I told everybody, I said, okay, I'm going to try these on, and you tell me now, if they don't look good on me, I'll give them to you. And that's what I did. So, yeah, it's fun. And it's, I guess in some way it's my way of giving back. And I think it's kind of funny when someone asks me, "Ooh, can I have your hat?" I'm thinking, well, yeah, you want to you might want to wash it. I mean, you just, in this day of Corona and all that stuff, I mean, when you ask for something to wear, it's like, but all the hats that I have been all around the world. You know what I mean? So they've meant something to me, and some of them I'll never give away because they, like my video, I gave away a duplicate of one of my videos. I had 2 of the same one, but the early years, I'm holding on to those for my grandkids.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for all the fan engagement that you do, Kym, and it's really nice, and it's really nice for you to do stuff like this and to get out there and talk to your fans. It really.
Oh man, absolutely. I as I said to you earlier, you probably think you're going crazy with this thing going back and forth. I apologize, but as I said to you earlier, I really appreciate you for reaching out to me. I don't know how a lot of other artists think about it, but I really look at it as such an honor, that someone would want to talk to me about, what I've done in the music world. You know what I mean? So I just want to thank you and thank you for being a part of the Kym Sims train for all these years, and to your listeners and anybody that may be new to the Kym Sims movement. I hope you guys join in. I appreciate you. I really, really do. Thank you.
And of course, we'll have the opportunity to see you in next
September.
September, yes, yeah.
And hopefully before then, but for September for sure. And I'm actually hoping that what'll happen is it'll, everything will go as planned, and I'm planning on giving 10 tickets away, and I'm planning on doing some things just personally myself, separate of the venue and them, just to to thank my fans and to apologize for us having to sort of back up. But I'm planning on I want to just give some stuff away and get people excited about coming out to see me along with all the other artists.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Kym.
Thank you.
So that was my interview with the delightful Kym Sims, and I just want to say thank you to her again for speaking to me and being so generous with her time and giving us such an interesting and thoughtful insight into her career. I think a good lesson to learn from Kym's experience in the music industry, which I think can be extended into any walk of life, is that it is worthwhile taking that little bit of extra time to check the paperwork, read the small print before you jump headfirst into any big part of your life. It's not the first time we've heard on this podcast about artists not always getting the kind of returns they should probably be entitled to for the contribution they've made in the music industry. But it's great that Kym's in a very happy and settled place in her life now, making new music on her terms, and we really look forward to seeing her here in the UK for Party in the Park 2022 at Chillington Hall, Wolverhampton, between the 23rd and 25th of September, and you can visit partyintheparkfest.com to buy your tickets for that event now. In other exciting news, I'm delighted to say that since Tight Fit's appearance on the podcast last month, their awesome single Fallout has climbed all the way to number 3 on Mike Reed's Heritage Chart. You can vote for them every week on the Heritage Chart by visiting www.heritagechart.co.uk. It would be amazing to see them go all the way to number 1. And Tight Fit will be performing on the Heritage Chart TV show, which debuts this Sunday, February the 6th, at 7 p.m. on Freeview Channel 7 and Virgin Media Channel 159. And there's lots more to come here at Mega Music Memories. I'm lining up some really exciting interviews with amazing artists and bands from the 90s and noughties. I won't reveal the name of the artist because I haven't recorded the interview yet, but I'm really excited to be speaking very soon, hopefully, to an incredible singer who had a huge hit in 2001, which is one of my favourites of the whole decade that I still listen to on a regular basis to this day. So there's lots more for you to enjoy in the coming weeks and months here on Mega Music Memories. Please support the podcast by leaving us a 5-star rating and giving us a positive review wherever you get your podcasts. Positive reviews help the podcast to get seen by more people, so I really do appreciate those. I don't have a Patreon account like lots of other podcasts because I don't want anyone's money, but I would love for the podcast to be heard by lots of people. So if you can help me out by telling your friends or spreading the word on social media, leaving a review, so on and so forth, I will be forever indebted to you. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at Mega Music Memories, on Twitter at Mega Memories. You can send us an email at megamusicmemories@gmail.com. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts, so you'll be the first to know as soon as new episodes land. I hope you're all enjoying a good 2022 so far, and I'll speak to you again very soon for plenty more Mega Music Memories.